I can adjust the volume in the back once we get going. There you go. Good.
Hello, everybody. Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for coming, everybody. We're excited to have our May 1st book sandwich in. Spring is upon us, so thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Dina Vivian. I'm the programming librarian here at Brigham Memorial Library. I just want to start with a few housekeeping tips. For safety purposes, if there's a need to evacuate the building, the door on my right or left is our closest exit.
I say go now.
For anyone using a hearing aid, we invite you to take advantage of our production loop system. It amplifies all sound coming through the microphone. And along those lines, if we have time for Q&A, please wait for the microphone to reach you so that everyone can hear and participate. Please silence or turn off your cell phones now so as not to disrupt the speaker. And we'd like to thank the Friends of Brigham Memorial Library for sponsoring this program and our whole BSI series. Any books that anyone would like from the series, please check the information desk after. And we are happy to report we have been able to reschedule our review of The Women by Kristen Hanna. It's going to be, I believe, June 26th, Thursday, June 26th at 12 o'clock in this room. We have one copy of the audiobook available if anyone's interested. Otherwise, please place a hold. So we're happy for that. And please grab one of our main program brochures. We've got a lot going on this month, as always. And with that, I am going to introduce our speaker. So when we read this book about an art gallery, we immediately thought we needed our retired MAG director to present. So we have Grant Holcomb here today, and after 30 years, he retired as director of the Memorial Art Gallery in 2014. And this is just a quote from under Holcomb's direction. The gallery initiated high-profile exhibitions featuring the work of Maxfield Parrish, Edgar Degas, Georgia O'Keeffe, and Jacob Lawrence. Meg also acquired works of art ranging from an ancient Egyptian sarcophagus and a Renaissance suit of armor. He is now a member of Historic Brighton, soon to be back on the board, where he also assisted one of our staff members in getting the historic marker for Edward Crone, the man who Kurt Vonnegut based the character of Billy Pilgrim in his novel Slaughterhouse 5. Grant has 5 grown children and 7 grandchildren, 3 of the little ones who live in Brighton. And when he's not visiting with them, he also serves on the board of the Genesee Country Village and Museum. So thank you so much for coming, Grant.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. It's odd in many ways, but I look out and see friends from those 30 years at the gallery. Even a former employee. She was always smart, so she's sitting in the back row next to the door. Always keen that way. So good seeing you all. And good to see faces, excuse me, that I've known. And good to see Matt walking in. Well, the first thing I want to do, this is not like an art history lecture. And that's what I've been giving as when I taught at Mount Holyoke College, or when I was a curator at the San Diego Museum of Art, or coming here as director to Rochester. That's how I approached art. And this was a challenge for me. Know this, and I think this is a fact. I haven't given a book report since the 5th grade. My hair was dark. But that said, this book, All the Beauty in the World, has been called surprising and inspiring. And I think that's true.
Sorry,
I've done something wrong.
Nope, yours is good, mine is bad. All right, keep going.
Thank you for coming today. Oh, sorry. Go back. Surprising in that we learn about everything from an employee's locker room at the Metropolitan Museum of Art to visitor behavior as they, some 7 million visitors a year, remarkable, come through those doors. And yes, we even get to read how works of art offer inspiration or solace to us, the visitor. I love this picture on the cover because I'm sure most, if not all of you, have walked up those stairs. I've done it many times over the decades. It would be a challenge for me today. Soon after it was published, it became a bestseller. And I've heard, though I haven't seen it, that it's been turned into a play. It's the author's account of his 10 years as a museum guard at the Met. And this is the key fact, I think, for the book and the story. It's a position he took after his older brother, 2 years older, I believe, died from cancer. And his need, in his words, to escape the mundane clamor of daily life. For me, his account seems true, in most part, for all art museums. When I read to escape the mundane clamor of daily life, I flashed back to my office at the gallery, to an 8-year-old boy who came into my office with his mother, who was tall. This is decades ago. And she says to me, "Jonathan so loves the Memorial Art Gallery, it makes him happy that he wanted to give you his allowance to keep it open for everyone." And he did. And I kept his 35 cents, swear to goodness, in my top drawer. And when the occasion came up about the importance of an art museum to all ages, I brought out the 35 cents. Then I retired not that long ago, and I decided to track down Jonathan if he was still around. I did track him down, and perfect spot, in Brighton. I knocked on the door. His mother opened the door. Believe it or not, Jonathan was there with his dad. He'd grown up into a tall man like his mother. He's well over 6'2". And they remembered the story. And he graduated from RIT, and he's working at RIT now. Now, reading Bringley, I also recalled a docent tour at the gallery. It goes back to that, to escape the mundane clamor of daily life. A small group of patients came in with a couple of our staff members to tour the gallery. The Alzheimer's patients, some of them had family members at the gallery coming through. And one woman took me aside and said, "This tour gave my husband back to me for a few minutes." That's the power of an art museum, of paintings, of works of art. We can't escape the mundane clamor. And do we live in an age of mundane clamor of daily life? It's not new to us. That's the fountain court. Oh, there it is. I want to come back to this at the end because when I retired, and I still go back to the gallery, I had time to walk through the collections in ways I'd never had before. And I found 2 works of art that I now claim as perhaps my 2 favorite works of art in the collection. And I'll end with that. Because they're right off. One's in the fountain court, and one's right off. But to go back to our society and our ways to escape the clamor, we all remember children's books. Konigsberg's From the Mixed Up Files of Basil E. Frankweiler, with its tale of an 11-year-old girl. I think she took her brother, much younger, to the Met, ran away from home, escaped to the Met, much as our friend has done with this book here. 1983, Sesame Street episode called Don't Eat the Pictures. Place, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And yes, even the Met Gala, I think part of the clamor, mundane clamor, as well as the glamour of the Met today. Bringley's account is both personal, his duties as a guard, a place of personal refuge, with an opportunity to explore. I lost my. Can you hear me? Oh, this is for the recording.
They can't hear you. None of us
I apologize. Talking about his duties as a guard, which we'll hear about in a minute. I'll do anything for attention. Thank you.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. His duties as a guard, we'll look at a few instances. A place of personal refuge that I'd mentioned before, and an opportunity to explore the most significant art museum in the world, outside Paris, outside London, or as Bringley states, the new world's greatest art museum. We not only stop before some of the most notable paintings and sculptures in the world, but we also get to know the duties, the trials and tribulations even, of museum guards, and at times the guards' wariness of us, the visitor. If Bringley first visited the Met at the age of 11, he still remembers his first significant encounter with a work of art. Quote, "Roaming the old master wing, I was stopped and held fast by Bruegel's The Harvesters. I experienced the great beauty of the picture, even as I had no idea what to do with that beauty." Later, as a guard at the Met, he writes, "I will be watching countless visitors respond in their own ways to this curious feeling." And Bringley does detail his encounters with observations of the Met's countless visitors. The first blockbuster exhibition for Bringley as a guard was the work of Picasso, a show that was held in 12 different galleries, and one that attracted, believe it or not, over 700,000 visitors. Quote, "To work the show," he writes, "is to manage an endless herd of jostlers and murmurers, a nightmare scenario for the guards over a 4-month period. I spend easily 200 hours rattling around in Picasso's capacious head." He details our visitors' stumblings into paintings, quote, "On the far side." I'll do anything to interrupt Ron.
Here, just hold it and keep talking and I'll get a clip.
Okay.
Just talk into it like a regular mic.
All right. Sorry. I told my mother I should have had bigger ears, and now I prove her right. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Find your clip.
Here we go. So we're talking about the Picasso show and the problems large crowds have. They don't have. Museum guards have within the museum. he details some of these stumblings. Quote, on the far side of the gallery, I spot a gentleman, I'll say it's David back there, encroaching on the channel, that bar that runs between the painting on the wall and us, the visitor. I spot a gentleman encroaching on the channel. But although I gain his attention with a wave, he doesn't know how to interpret me trying to say, step back, a healthy step backwards. So he elects to come speak with me and walks through the channel. Oblivious, he strides towards me and immediately throws his shoulder into the frame surrounding Picasso's Woman in White. Bringley says, the painting swings once, twice, 3 times. I feel as though I witnessed an earthquake. Somebody cries, and excuse my language, somebody cries, holy shit. I call the section chief and am assured the painting is unscathed. It's hard to feel that all is well, he writes, when you've just seen a swinging Picasso. If he plays the watchman, he also plays the teacher of new recruits. I delight in playing the teacher, he says, pointing out everything from electric shoe buffers to the Greek temple-like facade in the American wing, and on to the many faucets and electrical panels throughout the museum, as well as the masterpieces on exhibit in storage or on view in the galleries. My 30 years at the gallery, and I never knew where an electrical plug was, or maybe a faucet, but not many of them. So he knew a lot more than I did. If he admits that guarding art is a solitary pursuit for a guard, he delights in the daily interactions with the public, especially in the Great Hall, where his preferred assignments is working with a colleague, taking our admission tickets into the museum. Describing it as one of the most sociable jobs, he stands taking tickets, often conversing about where his fellow guard lives, how they got to the Met, or in his words, they're randomly assigned tete-a-tete. Quote, we stand next to the oleanders, chatting aimlessly about the NBA playoffs, about a Stendhal novel Joseph urged me to read, about his new grandchild, about Louise's upcoming 3rd birthday party, about how time flies. And he later admits that this is what he will miss when he left the Met. I will miss the daily, low-stakes, affectionate, time-passing talk among colleagues with nothing but time on their hands. Nothing to do and all day to do it, he ends. For me, the key passages regarding his movements through the museum are his reflective moments before certain works of art. Quote, such moments provide solace. They are heartening. They are pure. And later, when I look at Vincent's irises, I feel him longing to live in their vibrant simplicity forever. This is not an art historical analysis of a work of art, breaking a picture down in form and content and line and color and texture. It's how he feels Vincent van Gogh felt, longing to live, and he, the observer, longing to live in the vibrant simplicity and vitality of the irises. Closer to life, his personal life, is a painting by Titian. And this challenges me and challenged me when I read it, specifically a memory of his brother Tom. Bright, irreducible, and unfading, he writes, and I approach the Venus and Adonis, so beautiful and silent a poem that I can tell my mood being engulfed by it. That is, a painting that engulfs him mentally with beauty and spiritually with the memory of a beloved brother. Not a Sir Kenneth Clark analysis of a work of art, a formal analysis. But it's all here, in his eyes, but also his soul, the spirituality, as well as the beauty, and the memory of a beloved brother. I'll come back to this with a personal experience that I observed in retirement at the gallery. Or go back to my opening comments, art as inspiration, like the young Jonathan. Here's all I have, 35 cents. Please keep the Memorial Art Gallery open. Or the wife of an Alzheimer's patient who got her husband back for 7 minutes. It can be a personal moment, or an art historical moment. My history in art is art history. It focused on American art. I got my degrees in the history of American art, and in particular on the work of John Sloan and the Ashcan School, that group of painters who were painting like Whitman did in poetry 50 years before, street life on New York City. This is called Chinese Restaurant. And so a city scene, you could talk about the subject matter. The woman in the hat that you see there has been described by one art historian as a symbol of a prostitute who was taken to dinner that night. But one talks about the angle of the line of the woman and the cat below. That's a key connecting place, as well as the eyes of the men at the far right. The palette is typical Sloan, dark, coming from 17th century Dutch painting. An art historical analysis could be done, but it's the moment, and it's the moments that Bringley is talking about in his book. This is a painting at the gallery, 19th century French portrait by an artist named Vuillard. And it's a portrait of a famous writer in Paris, Lunier Poe. And what I'm going to talk about more of an analysis, formal analysis of the painting that conveys to me, and this, I go back to where a moment ago, when no longer working there with meetings and staff and donors, a blessed 30 years. Take my word, a blessed 30 years. I could walk through the gallery and just look, and I came across two paintings, both not American art, that became my favorites. If someone stopped me on the street, I'd name this one and another one I'll show you in a moment. But the formal analysis, it's a small painting. It's a world of giants, of writers, of literature, of painting, masterpiece, master painter. It's a tiny painting of what? Of a man we only know because the artist told us that was the subject matter, but a man writing. And everything, if we're ever at the gallery together, we'll go look at it. I know where it is. And to me, it's the intensity of the creative act. And you look at those diagonal lines coming down and the pen on the paper. All the focus is there. It's the smallest part. You have massive black hair at the top, black desk. It's the intensity of where the head's placed, the eyes are focused, and the intensity of the writing hand, of what's going from the head onto the paper. For Bringley, what's going from the head and the eyes to his memory, to his heart, to his soul. This is another painting, and I'm showing you these because this is what I took out of Bringley. Not an art historical excursion through a period of time or an artistic analysis, formal analysis of a work of art. But how works of art can go through the eyes and pierce that heart. This is a 17th century portrait. So again, I'm retired. I often go to the gallery on Sunday afternoons, 20-minute organ recital in that great Baroque organ that came, fortunately, when I was here, and our great contacts with the Eastman School of Music. And I'll listen to a concert by an organ student at the Eastman School, 20 minutes. And I'll sit on the back bench. There are two. I sit on the far right one. And if I angle off, I can see a portrait. This portrait by Paolini, 17th century. And one day, I'm there listening to the concert, but looking at the painting, and I see a woman standing in front of the painting, blocking my vision of the painting, but that's fine. But she was standing there, and I looked back later, she was still standing there. She stood there the entire time of the performance, which I thought was powerful. So I'm walking out, and then the stupid part of me decides to turn around and ask her, I've noticed you standing there for the length of the concert, and I was wondering why. And she turns to me like this. Tears are streaming down her face. And she says, Bringley comes to mind, he looks exactly like my husband who died 2 months ago. So when I read the Bringley book, this just popped to me. And over the time, this goes back a while, I don't write poetry, but I want to read you something. I call them yips. I write these yips. My kids say, why do you call them yips, Dad? I read a novel once, and it's about a guy who played baseball. And a yip is an error. So if you go down, if you're second base and go down for a ground ball and try to pick it up and throw it and it falls out of your glove, that's a yip. So I call these yips. It came from this painting. Because in his right hand is an engraving by Albrecht Dürer, the great master. And it's Melancholia. We know what the print is, Melancholia. a gentleman by cuff, by coif, with books and manuscripts above. Yet this more than a portrait of a man holding a Dürer woodcut, as the label reads. Rather a portrait of imminent death, the incredulity of the mouth, the right hand grasping melancholia, the left hand limp, the arched eyes aware of death. A woman today standing before this painting, tears streaming down her face, turns to me and says, "He looks exactly like my husband, who died 2 months ago." Yes, this a portrait of mortality realized much like our remembered friend who, having heard the diagnosis, this is a personal friend, whipped his head around and exclaimed, "But I have so much to do." And he did, but he didn't. So our tours in art museums, whether the Met with Bringley or the Memorial Art Gallery, yours, offers these moments. Many other moments as well, but that's what I got out of Bringley's book, not an art historical analysis or study of a period of time or of a particular painting, but of this stuff in us that responds to works of art in music or painting or what have you. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Grant. We have time for, time for questions or comments.
Oh, I thought it was 2 o'clock.
Too early. Too early. Anyone have any? Yeah, anyone have any? You guys, or are you just waiting for us?
We're waving hello.
We're just waiting.
We're neighbors.
All right, I'll start with a question then. At the Med, what do you find children are most attracted to, or which pieces do you think that they find most interesting?
The coffee shop probably. Um, and truer, I'm just thinking of my grandsons in town. The pool, the fountain in front. But to tell you, I think the show's now on. It's color field painting, Alma Thomas. And my daughter and I took them there a couple of weeks ago. And they looked at the paintings and they liked the color, but what they really liked was engagement. And you could sit down and draw on color, and that's what they did. I think it's a good question, but my grand ones in town are small, second grade and fourth grade, and preschool. I'll ask them. I have your card, and I will get an answer by the time they graduate high school. Okay. How many of you have been to the gallery? Oh, see, you know what I'm talking about, right? How many have had types of experiences that this woman, anonymous woman, have had? That's what art is about.
I really appreciated the breadth of different art that native art by Bringley and his description of those things. And I am not a school art person, and it gave me validation to hear him say, just look at a painting and let it speak to you. Like don't worry about analyzing why or
Right.
what or who or when. Just let it
I agree with everything you said. And if you want to go to the gallery, this will get you in.
Thank you.
Surely don't tell anybody that I.
Any more hands?
Hey, Matt.
Grant, sort of, you might not be the same situation with Dino, where you might not come to you immediately, but did you ever have anyone have a very negative response to your painting? Other than the like, political or thing, but an emotional,
A bad emotional response?
like anger or anything to that effect?
No. Shirley, can you remember? Have we ever had?
A lot of fuss about what was in the entry gallery there for a while, but that may have been after you left.
What gallery?
Where you walk in behind the admission desk. There was something.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The patrons were upset about, I think, because.
I wasn't there. I have his address. Yeah. No, I can't. I mean, I remember a show by a contemporary New York City painter that dealt with the Holocaust. And they were tough paintings. Jerome Whitkin, dear old friend, decades ago. And there were some comments about that, but and especially impact on small children. So we put a barrier between. You could go in, you didn't have to show anything, but it signaled that on this side of the wall will be something different. That's the only thing that, and it wasn't a bad experience. No. To my knowledge, there was never a painting stolen or damaged. I think I said it at the beginning, my 30 years at the gallery were just,
How many guards are at today?
how many?
Yeah, who have like Bringley's position?
Well, after I fired them, I don't know how many.
Or how many are there like during one shift per se, like per gallery are there?
They roam. If you ever go there, they roam. They have someone upstairs and downstairs, multiple people, because the collection's broken up, and you need those eyes. And I really cannot think of a painting that was damaged. I know one group came through and there was pencil markings found on a painting, and certainly that's why they're conservators. And paintings have been taken to conservation labs for cleaning and for taking pencil marks off. And the one answer I should have had off the top of my head, because I was so involved, when we, for the centennial year, we opened up the grounds into a sculpture park. And one of the artists selected brought the most controversy I've ever seen to the gallery. And to me, it was a lesson of, he shot an animal as an artwork when he was a teenager. He was about 50 years old when he was commissioned, and he's been commissioned coast to coast. And I said this to somebody, and I think it's true. Of my 30 years at the gallery, I probably learned more and appreciated more those contentious moments than anything else, because I had to deal with legitimate outrage at behavior, at human behavior, death of a dog, animal rights. There were marches out in front. My tires were slashed once. A staff member was threatened. Gave me an opportunity with my dear friend Marjorie Searle to meet with a rabbi in Rochester at Temple Bethel, to meet with a minister, to meet with the head of Lollipop Farm, who is now a dear friend of mine, to meet with the head of the animal rights workers who marched in front of the gallery, Lois Baum, who now is a dear friend of mine. And what I learned was anger and retribution and forgiveness. Where does that come into play? And has nothing to do with art history. Had a lot to do with righteous indignation, and then how far do you take it? And as I said, Lois and Alice Calabrese, who's the CEO, director of Lollipop Farm, are dear friends today, and I see them and eat with them, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So I wouldn't have given that part of it away. He wasn't my choice as artist for this area of the gallery, the corner of Goodman and University. But the artist I was interested in, he had multiples, and one was on the West Coast. No, one was on the East Coast, and he wanted the other one he had on the West Coast, not another one on the East Coast. But it's worked out well. My grandkids love it. And I would not have wanted to miss those days, weeks, and months when I had some of the most vile, when you pick up the phone, this phone that way, when I got into work, as well as violence to other things. But even my kids couldn't stay over with me. Now they're mothers of their own, but because of the fear of the time. But I've gone on much too long, but it's what art brings to us. And it's what art brought to that woman. I don't know her name, but I'm glad I turned around and asked, because it was all this. And those people who protested the selection of artists, it was all this. That's what we can learn. It's what we do learn, you know, as well as I do. So thank you for listening to me, putting up with me. And one of these days I'll give you an art historical talk. The history of, from A to B. Thank you for coming, David.